Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Interact for Impact, IAM for Accountants. My name is Jason McGilvray and I will be sharing the IAM Essentials with you today and show you how you can use it to create financial statements, tax returns and customizable reports. Just a brief bit about myself. I'm a CA and work as both a sole practitioner and with a small accounting firm in Sydney. IAM is fantastic software that is flexible, customizable, and scalable. You can use just one or two of the features such as STP or all of the full suite of features, including invoicing. This webinar will be mainly a demo of some of the great features of IAM and is based on a testing allied health practice with a company structure. The entity has 6 months of transactions for 2020 to 21, and the P&L and balance sheet for 2019 to 2020 have been imported. Okay, let's jump in and have a look at the app and what we're going to cover today. So when you first log into IAM, when you log into the dashboard, you get what we call the bird's view of your business, of your client's business, and then that gives you instant visibility of debtors and their due dates, creditors and the due dates, a P&L chart, a P&L versus budget chart, cash flow for your client, and a chart of the top expenses for your client. So I'll just show you where that appears on when you log in, and these type of charts that you have access to immediately. So when you log into IAM, you log into the dashboard and what we call the bird's view, and you can customize this dashboard with a number of different reports, and I'll just show you what those reports, the different range of those reports you get access to. So here is the different reports you can choose, and you can automatically appear on the dashboard. So we've got payables, receivables, cash flow, profit and loss, bank accounts, etc., etc. So those reports, basically with your cash receivables, you get a total, and then below that you can have a listing of those receivables, as well as the due dates for those. Similarly with the payables, you've got a total amount that's due at a particular time and a listing of those payables. Just below that, I've actually put on the dashboard a P&L, an actual versus budget. So yeah, the grey column is the budgeted figure, and the blue column is the actuals. So we can quickly see how that your client is doing for the last 6 months, and whether they are meeting their budget targets. And the final chart that I put on the dashboard on the bird's view is a donut of the total expenses. So in this case, our total expense is wages, but then you can also see we've got some general expenses there that we need to code. And we've got some referral fees or management fees that are one of the top expenses, super, and referral fees. So as I said, you can actually customize this dashboard. So you can remove some of these charts and add others to it. For example, you can add the cash flow report, profit and loss accruals without budgets, and you can also add the bank and cash summaries. So we'll just have a look at those quickly, those reports, and it just takes. And here we go. We'll have a look at those reports now. So as I said, you can see a cash flow report, and that will give you a chart of the cash flow from the start of the financial year to date. And there's also a bank account report, which gives a summary of the bank account balances as at the date that all the transactions have been entered into. So, and the final report that we've got appearing here is a P&L without the budgeted figures. So as I said, the cash flow, basically from the start, from the start of the financial year, so the 1st of July 2020 through to these figures actually to the 31st of December 2020. And so, for example, the green line represents the cash flows in or the inflows, and then the red line indicates the outflows. So in this instance, I actually personally prefer to see the debtors and creditors on the dashboard with the due dates, and then also the P&L accrual report. So that's when I'm working with the client. Those are sort of reports that are important to me. So I will leave those on the dashboard. And we'll just have a look at what that looks like. So when I go into the client's file every day, or however so often is necessary, those are the reports that I see after downloading and coding the data. The other thing I'll just show you, which is a really cool feature, is that with the payables and also with the receivables, but in this instance I'll show you the payables. If you actually just click on the bill that's part of this total, and that includes this bill here, I've got an IAM bill to pay. If you click on that item there, you can actually then drill down into the bill itself. So here it is, and you can upload any of the documents that you like. So in this case, we've got we said that the bill was due on the 8th of March, and it hasn't been paid yet. It's the annual subscription. So immediately you can see from the dashboard, click the drilling into the actual bills, what is actually due. The other thing you can do in the transaction is add a comment or post a query. So we'll move on to the next slide, and that is looking at the 4-step workflow that we recommend in IAM. And that begins with, and we'll give you an overview of what that looks like, and then drill down into the 4 steps. The 4-step workflow that we recommend that is followed as best practice. And so that 4-step workflow involves first off, obviously importing the data, so getting that data into IAM, and the second step is to review that data. Obviously, the garbage in, garbage out theory applies. So make sure that the data is checked and basically reconciled. So so review the data and make sure, and then once the data is in, review that data and make any new round adjustments. And the third step in the workflow is prepare the financial statements. And the final step is to export that data and then to prepare the tax return and lodge. So the first step there is to import the data. And you can import that data a number of ways. So either via importing the reports from the other software that you may use, such as QuickBooks, Xero, or Mob, or you can actually import the actual CSV bank statement downloads and get every transaction into IAM. So it's entirely up to you, and both there's advantages to doing it for both ways. And obviously, if you've got more detail in IAM, the better the reporting, the better that you can drill down on particular transactions and accounts. So just in terms of getting the data into IAM via your software, we'll just use another entity for this process, this demo. So obviously the first step, you'll need to check the chart of accounts in IAM. and then ensure that in preparation for the mapping process of the accounts in your software, used to the accounts that are set up in IAM. So it's a fairly straightforward process in terms of customize the chart of accounts. The chart of accounts are under the accounts menu, and then you can add or delete the various accounts to set it up for your purpose. So the IAM chart of accounts are fairly straightforward. One thing I do like about this is that it's a complete set of chart of accounts. So basically got almost every possible account type that you could have, or account description, and that's just a case of either changing the account name for that particular client, or deleting it. So I'll just go through the importing process for a particular client. So to say, for example, your client's on zero, and you wanted to bring their trial balance figures into IAM to prepare the financial statements and the tax return, you'd actually get into this heading here, or this menu item under import, and you select 0, and then you would select the type of report you would bring in. We recommend as a first step the trial balance. You would then select the trial balance, and then you choose which date you want to bring those numbers into IAM for. And then obviously the report basis is important also. So just to bring those numbers in, you just click connect to 0, and then you just got to go through the authorization process. So we've actually entered those details previously, and we've selected the entity previously. So we just click allow access for 30 minutes, and just while that's loading, so then we'll come up with the screen where it basically you match the 0 accounts to the IAM accounts. So for example, interest income. Obviously, you'd like that to go into interest received, and so on and so forth. So that's a fairly straightforward process. So once you're happy with the mapping, just click next to confirm the figures. Again, they look pretty reasonable. They're all sort of sit fairly nicely. So you click import, and then those numbers then populate the different reports for review and then preparation of the financial statement. So that's how you bring the numbers across, and then you can also do it for QuickBooks clients on QuickBooks, clients on MIB, and you could also bring in a CSV file with those numbers also. So the other way you can actually bring in data is via the bank statement transaction CSV file. So we'll just go through and I'll just show you how that sort of works. So I'll go back to the Allied Health practice file, and then it's just a case of fairly similar. Click on the bank feeds under the banking menu item, and this is locked me out again. So I'll just enter my password. Try that one again. Okay, so you basically to bring in your bank statement transactions, it's just so again, click on the banking menu item, click on bank feeds, and then click on import statement on the top right hand side, and then you'll be able to. We'll just click on that. And it's just a case of selecting the bank account in your accounts to the applicable bank account, and then selecting the file and then bring that in. And then so we'll just have a look at the bank feeds as they appear in IAM. So you can set up rules, and it's just a case of approving those rules once they're set up. If you've entered invoices or purchases or bills into IAM, you can match those bills, match those invoices into the transaction that's come through on the bank feed. And also the other thing you can do is actually add a comment or add queries, and then also add attachments, so adding the source document for a transaction. So you might like to add a particular invoice, or so there was an asset you purchased, whether computers or whatnot, you might like to add the invoice for those. The second step in the workflow to eventually create the financial statements and tax returns is to review the data and make any year-end adjustments. So the process to do this is different based on whether you imported the bank transaction CSV or whether you imported your software reports at year-end, whether you imported your P&L, your balance sheet, or your trial balance. So if you imported your bank CSV, there's a number of steps that that I would go through to check the data. This is not an exhaustive list, but it's certainly some recommendations and I guess a brief outline of what you can do in IAM to check that the data is correct. So the first thing obviously is a global review of the P&L and balance sheet to make sure it looks reasonable. You check the source documents, obviously a general ledger detail review. You can check the debtors and creditors reports to make sure that they're current and still valid, or there's some old debtors or old creditors that, or particularly old debtors that whether they weren't closed properly or that they're stale, whatever the case is. So there's some other management reports that are very useful in terms of checking the accounts, such as the comparatives to prior year, checking the budget figures, so figures that you estimated that you would record, and also the jobs P&L. So I suppose it gives you an idea on the P&L for a particular region or a particular product type. And then the second thing, if you're importing from software, it's a bit more of a simpler process, because I would recommend that you check the data in your Xero software or MyOb software or QuickBooks software first, make the adjustments in the software, and then only bring across pretty much your final set of accounts, and then just make some year-end adjustments such as dividends, tax expense, and FBT contribution if those are applicable. So just with the bank CSV year-end review and checking the data and making adjustments, we'll just quickly have a look at the app to see how some of those how that sort of looks. So in terms of the P&L and the balance sheet, well, for any of these reports, you actually flick to the reports menu on the left-hand side, and then we've got this pop-out that we can do. So we click on that, and then that gives us access to all the different reports on one screen, which is again a great overview. So yeah, you can just select the different types, the different reports you want to review. So we've got the P&L here, we've got the balance sheet here, and then you can check if you've attached documents to those. You can check the source document. So if we just quickly have a look at the P&L, just for illustrative purposes, how this sort of works. So if we just have a quick look at say for example, the dues and subscriptions, just quickly have a look at this account, and then that drills down. So by clicking on the actual account name, we then actually see the transaction listing or the detail behind the account. And then if we want to look at the source document, so click on this IAM, and then We click on the bill here, and then that will open up the actual source document for that transaction. So if you want to verify that has been recorded correctly, and that should eventually pop up. Yeah, so we'll quickly just have a look at some of these other useful reports. So there's the bill there for that IAM. So some of the other useful reports, particularly the debtors creditors. So we can have a look at the receivables report for this particular year, and so this again gives us a snapshot of where things are at, and if we need to make any changes to it. So if we click on, say for example, Happy Days, that will then give us a breakup of the transactions making up the Happy Days total. So you can then review that or make the adjustments where necessary. And you can do it's set up the same way on the other side of the ledger. So for the creditors, and we'll just have a look at that. So then if we have a look at the transactions here, so there's all the transactions for Happy Days, and then we can then we'll move on. So, and one other report I'll just show you is the jobs P&L, which again it gives us a good overview, and it gives us a good indication of whether the accounts are correct. So say for example, with this counselling source of income, basically we've got the sales there for counselling, and then we can see we've got management fees attached to that counselling service, and then a quick review of that says to me that those numbers are correct. So that's some steps you can go through to review the accounts and make any year-end adjustments. The other thing I just point out with if you're importing from software is that you can actually, so you pretty much got your whole set of accounts correct. You're happy with those in your other software, in your Xero, your MyOb, and you brought in the closing balances or the trial balance, and then you've done your tax calc, and you need to enter your tax calculation. You actually enter it in the general journal under accounts and general journal, and you would record it just in here. So it's fairly simple, straightforward. Yep. So just in there, you enter that journal in this screen here. So the next step that we're going to look at is step 3. So prepare the financial statements and value-add reports. Step 3 is the workflow is prepare the financial statements and value-add reports. This process involves after you reviewed imported your data, reviewed that data, made any year-end adjustments, and you're happy with the draft accounts, then you would prepare the financial statements in IAM. So the format that IAM produces the financial statements is actually based on the business structure that is selected in the organizational settings. So that's pretty key to get that correct when you're setting up the entity in IAM originally. You can actually choose to include comparatives in the financial statements, or you can turn that functionality off. With the director details, you can actually add additional directors if there's been a change in directors during the year, or if you can delete, add, or adjust whatever best suits. In terms of, you can download the financial statements as a PDF or a TIFF file, and also when the financial statements are finalised, we recommend that you download them and then upload them to your GovReports account against the client. And the second thing I just want to show you today in terms of financial statements is that you can build what you call a client report pack. So normally, the client would get their set of financial statements and their tax return, but I recommend that you probably go that bit step further, and certainly IAM gives you that ability to do that, and it's not a difficult process to prepare a client report pack by adding extra reports into the against or attached to the financial statement. So you can add basically an actuals versus budget report. You can add a jobs report, a sales report, and also a purchases report. And it just gives the client a bit more detail, a bit of value add there, and it's certainly a conversation starter. When you're signing the tax return and you're discussing the financials with them, you can refer to these management type reports to give a bit more depth to the conversation. So we'll just jump in and quickly have a look at the financial statements that that IAM produces. So if we just jump back into our Allied Health Service file, and just to produce the financial statements, it's just a fairly simple process again. So we'll just click on this pop out and look at the dashboard. So you go under accounts and you select financial statement, and just bearing in mind this is 6 months worth of transactions, so we'll just assume that this is for the whole year. So yeah, the transactions from the draft accounts automatically populate in the financial statements, so you don't need to do anything further. But again, before you present these to the client, obviously you would review this one last time to make sure it is all correct. So here's the detailed P&L, and then we've got the balance sheet with some notes here attached to different accounts, and then we've got the notes to the financial statements, and then there's some accounting policy details. The other thing I just wanted to explain is the client report pack. So I'll just show you where you can find these other value add reports. So go a different way. So under reports, accounts, and the drop down, you can see the jobs P&L, which we looked at just before. Well, the other thing we can look at is the P&L, and we can look at a budget comparison. So if we just click on that one there, and this brings up basically a comparison for the period that we've entered, so from July to December, and we run the report. So, and this shows that basically gives an actual figure. So say for example with the income, we've got a figure of about 50k. The budget figure was 41k, so we're ahead about 9k. And then it's the same process with the expenses. So that's a great report if your client has entered some budget figures for the period, or perhaps you've had an advisory consult with the client and you've worked on some budgeted figures for the year. You've entered those into IAM, and you come to the end of the year, and here is the financial statements. Then compare the actuals to the budget and just determine where things have gone well and where things can be improved. It's really easy to set up the budget figures, and that's through the accounts menu and under budget entries. Then you can enter the budgeted figures for each year. So yeah, very simple, very straightforward. you certainly come up with some figures, even just based on the prior year numbers or some sort of formula that you've come up with. So here's the budgeted figures. So let's just say that with this client, they do psychology services, do assessments. So basically you enter the budgeted figures for each month, and then we get a total up here for that that particular account. The other thing, I just wanted to show you a couple of other things with that financial statements. So just want to show you the directed details and the comparatives and where they can be changed. Very straightforward. So here on the top right hand side, the directed details, and you can add those in there as you see fit. The other thing you can do is to change the comparatives. So you can here up on the top right hand side include previous year comparison, and we selected yes. And the settings can be modified. So if you want to show the notes, or if you don't want to show the notes, and the current date. So what I normally do with the financial statements is create a client report pack, and I'll show you how you can put that together. So what I've got here is, so what I do, I download the financial statements from IAM, and then I use the Adobe or Acrobat product to create a report pack as such. So it includes both the financial statements as well as these other management reports that I was referring to, such as the actuals versus budget. So if we just see how this sort of looks, let's change the zoom so we can just see it a bit better. So we change this to say 75%, and then so what we've got here, we've got a detailed profit and loss. Let's click on that. So here's the profit and loss, but then we've got these other reports at the back here. So in the contents, we've got some other. So we've got an actuals versus budget report. So click on that, and we've got this report here for the client, and we've got also a customer report. So click on that, and then the client can then actually see, or you can talk to your client about how many the value of that client to or the value of that customer to your client, and what's involved and the costs, etc., in terms of generating that revenue. So a great snapshot, and certainly a worthwhile year-end report to discuss with your client. The step 4 is the workflow, and the final step is to export the data and prepare the income tax return. So basically, the totals that are in the financial statements pretty much automatically pre-fill a tax return information statement. So then it's just a case of checking that, make sure that aligns with your financials, and then pushing that into the actual tax return. So it's a really super easy, super quick, super simple process to go from your financials to your tax return. But yeah, just stress that check everything before it actually is in the actual tax return itself, and make sure it's all populated into the correct labels. So we'll just have a look at how that all happens in IAM. So we're on the dashboard, and then we go into, so just to complete the tax return, we would actually go to reports, and then we go to taxation. And because this entity is a company, we click on company tax return, and we're actually using a different entity for this purpose. So we actually go to the 2020 year, and then we'll have a look at the tax return here. So basically all the information from your financials is then populated into this information statement. So in this case, we've got interest income of 250, and then we've got some expenses of super, depreciation, and repairs and maintenance. So we end up with a loss of 1,685. So then the process here, once you're happy with this information and this matches your financial statements, it's then just a case of publishing this detail to the actual tax return itself. So we click on publish, and we wait for this to actually be pushed across into the tax return. And it's just a case of looking at whether there's any errors in the tax return, so and then working through those errors. So if you've already prepared the tax return and then you're pushing new information across, you'll get that message to say that you want to overwrite that detail. So here's the tax return, and if we just quickly have a look at say the information statement, and we have a look at the income. So here is the gross interest that's been pushed across from that first information statement in IAM to here, and then the super, as we said, etc., etc. So we've got a loss here of 1685 with an LN label F. So again, very, very simple, straightforward process. A couple of key steps here to finalize. So you then click on the errors to identify any errors and to clear those. So there's a few here that need to be fixed up, but that's part of the process. The second step that we encourage here is to click on the save and lodge. So once everything's correct, then you can click on save and lodge, and you can actually send the tax return to the client for electronic signature, which is a fantastic sort of feature, so that you've got that an electronic trail as such. The other thing you can do here under the actions wording up here, you send the client a copy of the tax return via email, and you can click a copy of that of the tax return. So the other thing you can do is actually print a copy of this tax return and then combine it with the financial statements and the other management reports. So the client's got a nice little pack of detail of their finances for the financial year, and it's easily then for them to go back and look at everything in one place, in one file. So yeah, once you've received the signed declaration back from the client, then it's just a case of clicking lodge, tick this box here to send the tax return to the tax office, and hit submit. And that's the 4-step process or 4-step workflow in IAM to go from raw data or a blank screen or a blank canvas, getting the data in, which is step 1. Step 2 is to review that data, make any adjustments, fix any errors. Step 3 is to prepare the financial statements, and then also some custom reports, which are just as valuable as the financial statements in terms of the client's business. And step 4 is to prepare the tax return, complete the information statement in IAM, push that across to the tax return, review, clear errors, and then get the signed signature, and then lodge. And that's it for compliance for your client in terms of the income tax return work. Okay, we do thank you for joining us today, and we do apologise for the errors or the difficulties that we had earlier this week. But we look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. Thank you very much.